Hi, my name is Michelle, and I'm going to introduce you to new ACANA Heritage foods. We have lots of great tools at Champion Pet Foods, but probably our best tool is actually our packaging. So I'm going to introduce you to the new foods by simply using the bag. So before I introduce new ACANA Heritage foods and take you through the packaging, what I'd like to do is just a quick word on what is ACANA Heritage Foods and what the foods are designed for. So the good news is if you already know ACANA, you already know our heritage foods. Our ACANA Heritage Foods are our classic foods, just enhanced as well as renamed. So we've been making ACANA Classic Foods for 25 years. In fact, some of the first bags that we've made are actually on the wall behind me. ACANA Classic Foods represent our heritage or our beginning. So it was our beginning or our focus on making biologically appropriate, fresh regional ingredient foods. So what are ACANA Heritage Foods designed for? Well, these foods are entry-level food into the biologically appropriate category. They're a life stage food that's beautifully priced. And so what that offers to pet specialty retailers is this gives them a food to help them acquire loyal customers from mass or grocery, to help them convert to a food that's exclusive to them. So let's begin. So first place to start off with when you're speaking to your customers is to start with the badging here. So it says Heritage 25 years. You're going to notice this badging on all the ACANA foods in 2016. So this represents the category of food that this belongs to. This will help retailers as well as pet lovers navigate through the ACANA line when they're looking for their food on the shelf. Next place to start off with when you're explaining our foods is to introduce the category of food, which is biologically appropriate. It's important to say that this is a new category of food. So there's lots of premium, holistic, natural, or even grain-free categories of foods found on retail store shelves. Biologically appropriate, as we know, is much different than traditional foods. So biologically appropriate, what is that? Foods designed to match the eating anatomy of dogs and cats. And when you're speaking about biologically appropriate, we always encourage you to use your meat math. And so we'll take you to the top of the bag to talk about meat math. All right, so when we're talking about biologically appropriate, we start with meat math. So what is meat math? Well, it's 3 meat questions. How much, how fresh, and how many? So let's take a look at our meat math on the front of the bag. So first meat question is how much meat? So you'll see in this food we have 60% meat. In today's ACANA Classic Foods, it's 55 to as high as 65% meat. So our new ACANA Heritage Foods are going from 60 to 75% meat, so more meat. Second meat question is how much fresh? So you see at the top of the bag here it says unmatched regional ingredients delivered fresh. So obviously our focus is on fresh. So currently in today's foods we're using about 25% fresh in ACANA Classics. In our new ACANA Heritage Foods, all of them will be 1/3 fresh, so more fresh meats. And the third meat question is how many? So variety is expressed in 2 different ways in ACANA Heritage Foods. See variety expressed up here, we're using fresh free-range chicken, flounder, and whole eggs, again all delivered fresh. And this is a new piece added to ACANA Heritage Foods, is whole prey. So whole prey is superfoods for dogs. It includes the meat, the organs, the bone, the cartilage. And why that's important is you're supplementing the dog from Mother Nature as opposed to having to add a whole bunch of synthetics to the food. Okay, so let's recap on our meat math. So how much, how fresh, how many? So how much meat? Now featuring 60 to 75% meat in new ACANA Heritage Foods, so more meat. Second meat question is how much fresh? So our focus of course is on fresh. So all ACANA Heritage Foods will feature 1/3 fresh. And how many? Well, how many is expressed again in 2 different ways, chicken, fish, as well as egg, and also how many expressed in whole prey. And so what are the results of that? The result of that is less synthetic supplementation. So you'll see here on the bag, only 1 synthetic supplement added to this food. The rest is coming from Mother Nature. So the retail environment is normally fairly busy, so you might not have time to take your customer through the entire package. But what I'll do is I'll just show you the icons at the bottom of the bag, and you can decide whether you want to use them or not. So the first icon here is biologically appropriate. That means this food is protein rich and carbohydrate limited. The second icon is whole prey. So the whole prey icon is also featured at the top of the bag, but we've put that at the bottom of the bag as well too, because we think it's important enough to talk about twice. The 3 represents top 3 ingredients or meat-based ingredients. And the fourth and the fifth icon are fairly important for retailers. FD stands for freeze-dry infusions. So that means the kibble itself is infused with freeze-dry made in our own kitchens to ensure that the food's nice and tasty. And the last icon represents all the pumpkin and butternut squash that we've incorporated in the food to ensure that there's no digestive issues when the dog transitions to the food. So now that we've talked about the front of the bag, I'm going to take you to the back of the bag and show you how to use the back of the bag to talk to your retail customers. Now that we've talked about the front of the package, let's move on to the back of the bag. We'll show you how to use this piece here. So, starting with our mandate of biologically appropriate, fresh regional ingredients, and never outsourced. So let's start with BA. So when we're talking about BA, again, we've got to use our meat math. And this swatch here was designed to help you use your meat math. So first meat question is how much meat? So we know that this food here has 60% meat. This is a 6 kilo bag. So 3.5 kilos is chicken, fish, and egg. Second meat question is how much fresh? So we know that this food here has 1/3 fresh or raw. And if you want to know a little bit more about how much and how fresh, check this out. 2 2/3 kilos is poultry, 700 grams is wild-caught fish, and 240 grams is nest-laid eggs. This piece is incredibly important. And the reason why this is important is because this separates us from our competition. So most pet foods, they talk about featuring different ingredients similar to this. But this actually shows pet lovers and retailers that our ingredients are in the food in meaningful ways. So the third meat question is how many? So how many is expressed here, of course, with the chicken, the fish, the egg. And how many is also expressed again with whole prey. So again, whole prey meaning superfoods for dogs, featuring meats, organs, bone, cartilage. And the result of our meat math, if you check out the ingredient panel, is only one synthetic supplement. This is much different than pet foods today. Most pet foods feature a long list of synthetic supplements. So this is something that makes us special. So now that we've talked about BA, let's talk about FRI, or fresh regional ingredients. And the obvious place to talk about FRI is obviously right here. This is a photo of Leo. He's with Celtic Seafoods. He's our trusted supplier of fresh flounder. This is something that's different from other pet foods. Most pet food companies, typically they buy commodity-based ingredients. They never know where their ingredients are coming from. So it's important to point out this photo to your retail customers as well as pet lovers. The final icon I wanted to point out on the back of the bag is this one right here of never outsourced. And what that means is we make our foods in our own kitchens. We don't make foods for anybody else. So whether it's our own recipes, our own trusted ingredient suppliers, we control the making of our food from beginning to end. And hopefully that'll give your customers peace of mind when recommending ACANA foods, and pet lovers peace of mind when feeding our foods. So hopefully this presentation was helpful for you. Best of luck selling ACANA Heritage foods in your market.